So for this one, I'm gonna do a basic overview of what I learned from week 9 and why it has a lot of significance to what I'm learning. So basically, I'm gonna go over the first presentation that I went and observed at the internship. This was a presentation that was done by our local police department, Bellingham. There was a case that occurred where individual was killed and shot at Boulevard Park. They mentioned that it occurred during the morning, so roughly like 4 a.m. if I remember, and he it was like an altercation he had with the suspect. I believe his name is Elijah, and he attacked and shot the guy and later pushed him off like the little fence that's by the boardwalk. And when they found the body, at first they thought it was some sort of drowning that occurred because um, someone might go down to take a dip into the water and might have some sort of emergency that occurs, or they're not a good swimmer and they'll drown. Apparently, I I'm never by the ocean, so I'm not aware. It happens a lot, and that's what they thought. They got a search and rescue boat or a boat to check it out, and once they pulled him out of the water, they noticed that there was blood from his wounds, and it was a sad case because um, they mentioned that the victim, was a homeless individual. He was very known to the area, and he was always by that spa in a bench. He was always known for not causing a problem, but also loving sports cards. And I thought that was very interesting because um, he didn't really hurt anyone. He kept things to himself. He was very local to the area. And what else do I want to talk about? I guess more about the physical crime scene location. It occurred at a park and at the boardwalk, I mean. And I think what makes it a little more interesting is how when the caller, the person who reported the crime scene, when they stumbled upon the shell casings, they mentioned how they found this, they saw blood spots, and they were on the phone with the police, and I guess later detectives discovered that it was contaminated because a kid picked up one of the shell casings to show his mom, and a lot of that can sort of contaminate the crime scene and mess with it. And another thing that they really used to sort of catch the suspect was using his like cellular device to locate him and see how his approximate location was to the crime scene, and overall the things that they used to connect him to the crime scene. I thought that was very interesting. There might be a lot of information that I'm missing, but um, basically they did a geofence warrant that allows them to access this private information from your cellular device, and it pinged him to that location, and it basically maps out a map from where you were. And it's very interesting because how this sort of new technology can be used to solve these crimes and get justice for people. And if it not would have been for that, if I remember, it would have been a cold case. um, but also, because of the area, there might have been not many witnesses, and the suspect later confessed at a party because he was drunk and unaware of what he was saying. He mentioned that later that night he killed someone and just dumped the body in the water. Um, and then later, the investigators talked about how he was sentenced to 16 years for his murder. And um, one term that I learned was youthful offender mitigation. So basically, if I remember correctly, because he's under 21 years old, I think because your brain is not fully developed at 21 and under, the judge has a more of a discretion, if I remember, and that kind of sucked. I wish that the guy would have got a larger sentence. He's only 20 something years old, and for him to being only sentenced 16 years old was very disappointing. A part of that, um, later on, they talked about a different presentation. So we had the 911 dispatchers come, and they basically went over the job and the areas that they cover. And I thought it was very unique because of how it's a very lengthy job, and it's 12 to 15 months of fully training, and a lot of it teaches you how to gather information, but also how to properly communicate with someone when they're under stress, or just because when someone calls 911, they're not at their best, they're at their worst, or it could even be a witness or a bystander. But whenever someone calls 911, they tell you how to calm them down, techniques, but also um, how these people are great people, the people who are 911 dispatchers, how they gather information to properly get the right resources out to the call. And for their unique job, I think that it takes a lot on them because they mentioned how they never really get to know the outcome of the call because they receive the call and they send a unit out to the location. And I thought that was a very interesting thing to learn about 911 dispatchers and how it's very crucial to police officers and our people. What was I gonna say? Overall, I think it was a lot. It was a great presentation. The first one and the second one. There's a lot of great information, and I think that because of the presentation, um, I'm more aware of what to do, but also how to properly, basically, don't spit out a bunch of information. Let the dispatcher do their job. Let them ask the questions so that they can properly send the right resources to the proper location. And another thing that they mentioned was about how, oh, I don't care if it occurred a week ago or a month ago, they'll still take the call. But it's also like the matter of urgency and stuff like that. But overall, it was a great presentation, and I learned a lot about our dispatchers and the areas that they cover, what a dispatcher is and what their job is, and basically how tough it can be. And but overall, it takes the right person to do the job, and that's pretty much what I'm gonna cover.